Well, hello everyone, Techie88 here and welcome to another review. And now we're taking a look at the Commodore Amiga game Walker, developed by DMA Design, who are now better known as Rockstar North, and published by Psygnosis in 1993. And there's the DMA Design logo, as was. There is an animated intro, but I'm just going to skip over that just to get on with the game. So you've got three choices here: the easy and arcade, and switching speech on and off. Now, Walker actually requires the use of the mouse as well as either keyboard or joystick. Right, so as I was saying, you have to use either the keyboard or the joystick and the mouse. Either Z and X for left and right to move the walker left and right, or you can use the left and right arrow keys. Otherwise, you use left and right on the joystick or joypad. And when it comes to the mouse control, that's done for all the aiming and firing. As you probably guess, you move the crosshair about using the mouse. I like notice the way the walker's head reacts accordingly to where you aim. And the left mouse button is used for firing the chain guns on the walker, whereas you can also use the right mouse button to lock on to an enemy like that. And you can't run out of ammo. However, if you see in the top left corner, there's a temperature gauge for the chain guns. So if that reaches maximum, you can't fire. Your firing ability will be somewhat restricted. And you've got a shield meter in the top right corner, which shows how once its green mode is fully drained, then it'll go into a red shield icon, and once that's totally drained, then the walker will explode and you'll lose a life. And the lives are shown by the walker heads in the top right corner. See, I've got 3 up there. Yeah. As you can see, my shield is critical because I've taken quite a bit of damage. Nice, visuals and sound effects in this. But don't get me wrong, this is not an easy game. It can be quite hard to prioritise what to go for first, and it might not necessarily be what you might think. As you can see, as you saw just then, sometimes if the enemy soldiers are positioned in line with the walker's feet, you can simply squash them. Oh, that landed right on top of me. Absolutely. And despite the fact using 2 different control systems at the same time, it works really well. And the controls are generally very responsive. It's only really if you have any problems with your mouse getting stuck or whatever that it can be a bit of a pain. See, my shield is almost drained. See, my shield's taking a lot of damage now, so if that is now, as I said earlier, it's now turned red. So if I if it totally drains in its current guise, then I'm going to lose a life and the walker will completely explode. This is also a game which worked. This game was released shortly up, not all that long after the AGA Amigas, the A1200 and the A4000 came out, and this I believe was one of the first games for the Amiga that would automatically detect whether if you had an AGA machine and enhance itself accordingly. I remember it being mentioned in the Amiga format review that I read back in the day. Ah, see, I blew up my shield, totally drained. Such a clever game. If I did have one complaint, then maybe it's a little bit too hard. And there are times when you can get completely overrun with the soldiers that shoot the bombs rather than the bullets at you, and those you'd be amazed at how quickly those can drain your shield. Oh. Oh, this is an absolute class title. That temperature gauge was maxed out. That's why I couldn't fire just then. That's another thing you have to be careful of. And the temperature gauge does fill up very quickly as you fire. I'm wondering whether it might fill up a bit too quickly. It does fill up very quickly. You can see it building up really quickly just then. So yeah, this way it can become a problem when you've got loads of men on the screen. I mean, the ones up there aren't such problems; they're firing bullets, but the ones down here are all throwing bombs, and they can take out huge chunks of your shield. And if you have a problem where you're struggling to lock onto and that's another thing, that sometimes the lock-on can be a little bit fiddly as to what it locks onto. There are times when you, I mean, one prime example early on is, you remember those horse-drawn gun emplacements which you saw earlier. It can be a problem when it's focusing more on the horses and we want it to focus more on the guns. I mean, when there's a lot next to each other, you do quite often get that problem where it locks onto things you'd rather it didn't. When you're trying to prioritise things that do more damage than others, it can become quite annoying. Look at the animation on the walker. And we're on to the second bit now. Oh, cool. So look at all these guys, and it's really hard to lock onto all of them because understandably they don't all stay in the same place. Oh damn, that one particular, that lower one was too low to be able to squash it. These are train. The walker can't fire behind it, so if there's something behind you and you want to shoot at it, you have to either you have to get in position and walk in such a way that the target is in front of it somehow. This comes into play quite severely later on when you might have some of those soldiers hanging on to you from a rope, and you have to swing them, the men so they're in front of you, otherwise they'll be behind you, and you definitely don't want them placing bombs inside you, because those particular bombs do tons of damage. Those you start to get those from level 3 onwards. This is level 2. Oh. Oh my word, look at all these guys. So I was able to squash some of them by trampling them underfoot. As I said, you can only do that if they're positioned adequately, so they're in line with the walker's feet, otherwise that's not going to work. That in the top of the screen there is the boss of this level. I can't actually destroy it just yet. Although had I not defeated those soldiers quickly enough, it would have eventually dropped bombs from its I love the sound effects in this, the atmosphere. I tell you what, DMA Design absolutely nailed the atmosphere in this game. They really got it down to a T. Oh, my shield's looking a bit dire. I don't think I don't live much longer with all these guys here. Yeah, my shield's in the red now. This is where it's going to become a bit of a problem. Well, that one didn't want to come near me for some reason. That's not like them. Normally they can't wait to get near enough to use so they can throw bombs at you. Well, maybe not throw, but certainly fire. Right, squash one of those guys. Nice explosions, which is absolutely essential for a satisfying shooter. Here's that boss again. Oh, see, I dropped bombs. Oh, he's buggered off again. Okay. I guess that. I think he does that a couple of times before we finally get a chance to actually take it out properly. I don't think that's going to happen before I lose another life. I think I've taken too much damage. You can shoot those planes, by the way. But the chance of destroying it before they have a chance to drop bombs is quite slight. Yeah, turning off the speech would have cut down on this the in-between speech, which freezes gameplay a bit. But I was afraid the game wouldn't have looked as impressive to reviewers who are unfamiliar with the game if I'd switched it off. So that's why I deliberately left it playing. But you can turn it off if you want things a little bit briefer than they might otherwise have been. That also means you can get straight on with the action. You don't have to wait for all that chitter chatter. Oh god, my shield. Right, now I can. That's that boss taken care of. I do think it's really clever the way the head actually follows where you're aiming. That's a really nice touch. And in case you're wondering, no, you don't go right back to the very start of the level if you die. There are clearly some checkpoints. Yeah, it's a bit worrying that you can kill those horses, but I guess that's what would happen. Oh, crap. I mean, seeing this alongside other more regular shoot-'em-ups like Necronom, which I believe was released the preceding year, and I've already previously reviewed that, and I wasn't massively impressed with that, and nor quite a few other. I mean, Amiga format absolutely roasted Necronom, and that was the Amiga magazine that was my go-to at the time. Well, actually, it was my go-to magazine pretty much the whole of the Amigas, and I continued with it until the magazine folded for good in March of 2000. Well, that was a sad day. That was when I had to just fully accept that the Phoenix-like mainstream revival of the Amiga's fortune just wasn't going to happen. It was a sad loss and a sad end to possibly one of the greatest home computers of its time. Thank goodness that retro gaming came back so that newer generations can experience what we did. Yeah, if I turned on soft speech, you wouldn't have even had the dice scumbags speech sample you just heard there either. So yeah, the fact there's that boss here proves that. Oh boy. Further proves that that it's not sending you all the way back to the very start. And at least when you go on to another level, you get all your shield back for the next level. It's hard enough even with that happening. Yeah, there were some parachutists who landed behind me, but because, as I said earlier, the walker can't shoot behind it. It can only. That's as far to the right as I can go. I can't go any further to the right further than that, because I'd be shooting behind the walker, which I can't do. Oh, I've got to be careful, it's dropping mode. It's taking a lot of damage. Oh, I thought I was going to be able to crush that guy underfoot. Nice. Again, I'm not likely to last the distance, but. Yeah, that's another problem with sometimes the locking on and not always locking on to what you particularly wanted to lock on to. I knew that was going to happen. I just didn't have enough shield left. And this is now my last life. Yeah. Graphics are really nice, animations really nice. The walker that you control is superbly realised and animated. Yeah, you can't advance until you've defeated all the enemies that are currently on screen. Yeah, I managed to squash some of them in there. Right, on we go. I've taken a lot of damage here, so I'm not going to last long. The sound effects are really nice, and the music on the intro screens are suitably moody and fits the game really well as well. I can't really fault the game's audio visuals at all. They're everything you could have expected for a game like this, and then some. Yeah, she certainly is barely there. And I had to just let my temperature gauge drop again. Oh, that was bad. See, I managed to destroy the plane there. Unfortunately, one of its second bomb managed to land right on top of me, so... Nice. It's that boss again. Oh, what did I do that for? Yeah, it can be a bit hard to see the bombs when you're off the screen like that, but there are times when you just have to be off the screen like that in order to avoid damage. Oh. I've got a bit more energy than I had last time. Sorry, shield, not energy. Well, it serves the same purpose. Ideally want to destroy those lorries ASAP, because otherwise you get lots of enemies pouring out of them. Ah, damn it. Oh well. That's game over. So that was Walker for the Commodore Amiga. Absolutely blinding shoot 'em up, and it's different enough from the rest of the games that are available for the Amiga at the time to help it stand out. Graphics really nice, the animation superb, and the detail on the walker itself and the overall visual feel of the thing is pretty much spot on. I can't fault it. It doesn't look out of place, and I'm really impressed with the game. I made it onto the high score table. The sound is excellent as well. The explosions sound brilliant, and this music's suitably foreboding. And everything, I can't fault the audio visuals at all, really. Everything just adds to the atmosphere, and it truly engages you in what you're playing. And generally, and I've never really had a problem where I couldn't clearly see what was going on. Gameplay. Well, the idea of having to use the mouse as well as another form of control isn't a prohibitive factor at all. It works better than you might think, and a lot of it's going to be down to whether or not you have a responsive enough mouse for the kind of harder, intense gameplay that Walker presents you with. I mean, as I said, if I had one gripe, maybe it's a little bit too hard, and perhaps and also perhaps the temperature of your gun overheats a little bit too quickly. But I would still happily recommend Walker to those who either were Amiga users who missed it first time round, or anyone who's not experienced with the Amiga at all and has recently dipped their toe into its extensive library and is after something that bit different and likes their shoot 'em ups. There's certainly a challenge there, and it's a challenge that's generally respected by action shoot 'em up lovers. And I'd be very surprised if Walker left you disappointed if you're one of those people. So I'd happily give Walker 8 out of 10. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope to catch you on another one soon. Texie88 out.